people within the black community laser focus on what happened to black slaves, which was atrocious. However, why don't we talk about the slavery that's going on right now?
Yes.
Why don't we talk about the child sex slavery that's going on at this very moment in North America, in the United States of America?
Keeping our republic is on the line, and it requires patriots with great passion, dedication, and eternal vigilance to preserve our freedoms. Jenny Beth Martin is the co-founder of Tea Party Patriots. She's an author, a filmmaker, and one of Time Magazine's most influential people in the world. But the title she is most proud of is mom to her boy-girl twins. She has been at the forefront, fighting to protect America's core principles for more than a decade. Welcome to the Jenny Beth Show.
My next guest was a Trump skeptic until he was red-pilled, as he describes it. Stephen Davis, perhaps better known as MAGA Hulk, was not always the MAGA influencer he is today. Living in Southern California in 2015 and hearing all the buzz about Donald Trump, he finally decided to do his own research, and what he found opened his eyes. Now he is a contributor for Turning Point USA and an ambassador for the America First movement. Stephen is full of energy, and his love for America is contagious. You are going to love this episode. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining me today. Tell the audience a little bit about who you are and how you got active.
Well, my name is Stephen Davis. I'm from Southern California, born and raised there up until 2021, for which I came here to good old Arizona, the free state of Arizona, especially in comparison to California.
Yeah.
I was kind of activated in a very interesting way. I was a leftist for a good portion of my life, most of my life, if not. And it wasn't until 2016, 2017, or 2017, 2018, when I was like, okay, I'm so sick of these Trump supporters, right? All this rah-rah for Trump. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I'm very upset about it. So I'm going to learn all that I can. I'm going to do my research on this Donald Trump character and how he's destroying America, because that's what the news told me. That's what CNN and MSNBC told me, that he's destroying America. So I'm going to do my research, and I'm going to go to these Trump supporters. I'm going to beat them all down with facts. Ended up red pilling myself. It happens.
It does happen.
So ever since then, I've been on this kind of crusade to go up against everything that I once formerly believed. I believed in the news media. I believed in the race narrative.
Right.
I fell for that wholesale. So those are the two main things that I go after and try to debunk as much as possible.
The race narrative. I am a co-founder of Tea Party Patriots, and beginning not in 2009, but in 2010, that's when Nancy Pelosi walked across the lawn of the Capitol with Congressman John Lewis, and they called us racist. It was a weekend that Obamacare was being passed, and by the time they got to the Capitol, they were on the narrative that we were racist and that someone spit on John Lewis, even though there were video cameras everywhere and there's no video footage of it.
Not.
And Andrew Breitbart actually put up a reward for anyone who had video footage to show that this actually happened, and no one ever stepped forward. I think he did like $100,000 reward. It was a lot for him to go out and say he was doing that.
Yeah.
And we had to fight that over and over and over. And now, at least among Republicans and the center right, they get that if you don't go along with what the left says, you're a racist. Everyone says you're a racist, and they don't quite take it so seriously. But if you're a black person or a person of color and you hear that somebody's a racist, how does that affect you? Like when you were the leftist, how did that affect you?
Oh, goodness. I mean, it's one of those situations where within the black community, especially within the left, the liberal establishment of the black community, you say race, we stand at attention. What do you want us to do? Are we supposed to hate this person? Well, of course we're supposed to hate this person. We're supposed to go up against them. You know, this person's a vicious racist. We got to go up and it just creates this frenzy within the black community, unfortunately, because it's unfortunate. There's this gentleman by the name of Willie Lynch, right? In I do believe 1712. This is where the term lynching comes from, and he was a slave owner in the West Indies, and he came to Virginia to give the speech of how to control the slaves, the black slaves at the time, and he said 3 things that you need to do to control these black slaves. You have to create fear, distrust, and envy. And when it comes to fear, when it comes to the word racism or racist, black people are so ensconced in this fear that we have to get angry and we get vitriolic and we begin to just lash out in such despicable manner when it's just a word that they use, that the left uses to demonize people who are not black. Right? It doesn't matter what you say. You can say the exact truth. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're labeled a racist. It's like being labeled crazy. It's dismissive. Right? So if you're labeled racist, you're not to be listened to. You're not to be trusted. We have to run for you or fight you and your agenda, whatever it is that you stand for. So that's one thing I can't stand about the black community at this point in time is that we become like robots, and it's like MK Ultra. We just stand at attention, reporting for duty kind of thing. And I think we really need to do a better job at understanding what real racism is and fighting that, as opposed to what the left tries to label as racist.
Right.
Yeah.
And I abhor racism. I don't want people to judge anyone by the color of their skin, and or to prejudge them. I grew up in Atlanta, in and around Atlanta, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was from, and in a period where integration had already happened. And so to me, I didn't go around. My parents made sure I didn't go around judging people by the way that they looked, and to look deeper than the surface of somebody. But I can also understand how, if I put myself in the other people's shoes, how I might react that way. And because you look back at the history of the country, and I can see why at an emotional gut instinct you would start to react that way. But you have to step beyond the emotion and start thinking a little bit more. And it sounds like that's what you did.
Well, yeah, it's one of those situations when you actually look at what's going on as opposed to what they're trying to imply, right? And even when you look at the history of this country, this country, when it comes to racism, when it comes to the slavery and the notion of slavery, it's not unique to America. Right. It's especially when it comes to the 1600s, there was plenty of white slaves. From 1600 to 1700, there were plenty of white slaves, too, that were treated as chattel slavery. There's a great book. The name escapes my mind. White Cargo. White Cargo. Great book. Fantastic book. And it talks about the white slave trade in America. And it's funny because people tend to forget about that. They tend to forget about the fact that there's so many people, so many different ethnicities within North America that were enslaved. Not just North America, but all over the world. And then we want to talk about slavery. And it's really frustrating because people within the black community laser focus on what happened to black slaves, which was atrocious.
Yes.
Absolutely. However, why don't we talk about the slavery that's going on right now?
Yes.
Why don't we talk about the child sex slavery that's going on at this very moment in North America, in the United States of America? Why don't we talk about the slavery that's going on in China? Why don't we talk about the slavery that's going on in the Middle East and in Africa? There's so many different areas in which slavery is happening right now. But we all laser focus on the slavery that happened in America that was rectified, that was taken care of. And because we didn't get quote unquote reparations, we're going to continue to harangue and harass the U.S. government and different politicians for our cut, for our check, for big government to come and save the day once again. It's absolutely despicable. We need to come to understand the history of the United States of America and the extraordinary strides that we've made as the United States of America, and making sure that we rectified the wrongs of our ancestors, right? Oh, I said our ancestors, which means white and black, because there was black slavers as well. So there's so much that we've done, and I think that we need to really focus on that and the beauty of the United States of America, because there's no country like us, and the things that we've done to rectify slavery as opposed to the slavery that's going on right now, and we need to really focus on the slavery that's going on right now and rectify that before we start talking about what happened decades ago, I should say.
Yeah, and the slavery that's going on right now it's horrible. I saw the film Sound of Freedom, but I've been to the border so many times. We did a documentary at the border in 2014, and almost every year to 18 months, I've been back to the border. And the first time that I was down there, I heard about rape trees and learned what those are. And for people who are listening, it's where women are abused and their undergarments or used condoms are put on a tree as trophies for the coyotes who are moving them across the border. Just horrible. And I remember when I was down there, Steve Bannon, and he knew I was down there, and he was down at the same time. And I met up with him for lunch or something one day while I was in McAllen. But I remember texting him and going, there are all these boys, teenage boys and young men coming across the border, but what's happening to all the girls? It concerns me because I would just wonder, are girls actually leaving on this journey and something's happening to them? Are they never going? What's going on? And over the years, pieces start to fall into place. And watching Sound of Freedom, sadly, it wasn't shocking to me. It's just horrible.
Yeah. It's actually rather sad. I mean, and that's another one I forgot, the child exploitation that's going on from, the southern border, these kids that are being, and I've even heard reports of women who take this journey, take it while they're on their menstrual cycle as to avoid the possibility of being raped. Right. And this is the things that these extraordinary lengths people are willing to go through in efforts to, have a chance at a new life, illegally migrating to the United States of America and doing so knowing that there is a high probability, I should say, of them being raped, young girls being raped, and yet and still there's nothing people want to do when it comes to the southern border, our porous southern border. They don't want to do anything about it, not understanding that it's not just about the illegal immigration. It's about saving lives and being able to save the innocence of these young girls that are going to be raped on this journey. And like you talked about the rape trees, that is absolutely despicable. But yet and still, I often see that the left does not care. They're all about, replacement theory. I mean, they could say it's a myth all they want, but this is exactly what they're doing. This is something Candace Owen talked about. She said that illegal is the new black. Right, that the grievance, the grievance type of ideology that the black community has now is shifting to illegals, right? Now we have to take care of illegals. Now we're going to prop them up as a dominant people to take care of in this situation. And you see this happening, and it's so unfortunate because of not only the fentanyl coming over the border, right? The drugs, right? The child exploitation that's going on. The fact that there's a lot of criminals coming over the southern border, raping and murdering U.S. citizens, right? Taking different jobs, taking different opportunities away. There's so many things going on, and no one wants to address it when it comes to the left. And it just goes to show the nefarious actions and the ideology of the left to not want to take care of that, to not want to stave off on that, and to not want to fix that situation because obviously it benefits them in the long run, and that's all they care about.
It is all they care about. And it's mind-blowing that when you they pit us all against one another. They just pit everyone they can against one another so that they move through and get whatever laws pass that benefit them.
Yes,
it's how power works, unfortunately, in this country. It's
Absolutely.
disturbing.
It's a divide and conquer tactics that the left is really famous for. They do it quite often. As a matter of fact, there's speaking on the white slavery that happened in America, the Baker Rebellion of 1676, right? Because at that time, like I said, there's a lot of white slaves, right? And there's white slaves and black slaves getting along famously, fighting. They would run away together. They would rebel together, right? They would fight alongside each other against the slavers, right? And when it came to the Baker Rebellion, the people of Virginia, the elites of Virginia would say, you know what? We can't, this is not sustainable, okay? The fact that these whites and blacks, these white and black slaves are coming together against us, the powers that be, this is not sustainable. We got to quell this. How are we going to do this? Okay, we're going to slightly elevate the rights of white slaves, which were considered chattel slavery, just like blacks, right? They worked side by side and they ate together, they slept together, all that sort of thing. But now we're going to slightly elevate the status of these white slaves. We're going to also give them, when their indentured servitude is complete, we're going to give them a gun, we're going to give them corn, we're going to give them a little bit of money. You know, we're going to do everything we can to set them apart. We're going to have separate sleeping quarters and separate clothing for them to wear, to give them this sense of superiority, because if we can get them fighting amongst each other, then we can get them to focus on each other, and the powers that be, us, with all the power, we can go on with business as usual. And they did it, and it worked famously. White and black slaves started going up against each other, and they started butting heads together instead of unifying and coming together and understanding it's not us that are the problem, it's them. They are causing this divide. And the same thing that's happening right now in America, the elite are constantly putting a citizen against citizen, race against race, people against people. That's way it is with CRT. That's the way it is when it comes to even the pandemic. Right? Call this hotline to rat out your neighbor, your fellow man, if they have more than so many people in this house. Right? If they have their business still open, you need to rat out your fellow man. As a matter of fact, it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. You need to direct your ire towards these individuals. And they constantly came with this type of narrative because it's always to divide and conquer, put the two people against each other so they don't focus on the real problem, which are the elite.
Do you go around the country and talk to people, and are you able to sway hearts and minds?
Yes, I go to, right now, my focus is I go to a lot of different colleges, college campuses through Turning Point USA, and I talk to the different chapters out there. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of divisive people that come out and yell at me for doing such a thing, of course. But my focus is on waking people up, because I was once blind too, and now I can see. And I always liken it to, because I'm talking to college students, I always talk to them about beer goggles. Right? That, this idea that you drink and you drink and you drink, and the alcohol affects your mind, right? It affects your brain's chemistry. So one thing that you used to look at as disgusting, now you're looking at it favorably, right? And the same thing is happening right now, but in relation to racial goggles, right? So now that you're looking at things through the lens of race, you're seeing things that shouldn't be, and you're looking at it and saying, you know what, I perceive this to be something different than what it actually is. Just like beer goggles, right? I'm seeing this, but I'm having a bad view on this, because this is what the racial lens that I have on have distorted my vision, have distorted my mind, so much so that I'm looking at this as a situation that not really is what it purports to be. Right? And so I go to these college campuses. I talk a lot about CRT. I try to debunk it as much as possible, because it's something that's tearing apart the United States of America. This idea that racism is normative, and that this country was built by white people for the benefit of white people, which is what the 1619 Project always likes to purport, is absolutely bunk. And it's ridiculous. It was built by everyone for the benefit of everyone. It took a bit of time for people to realize that. And that's why there are certain amendments passed, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment and things of this nature. But at the end of the day, we realized that this was a country for all of us, right? And when I come with this particular message, I'm met with a lot of anger and vitriol, and it's kind of interesting to see it, because when it comes from the white liberal, right, I see them showcasing the soft bigotry of low expectations, right, that and the white savior complex and everything in between, right? So it's kind of interesting listening to them, because they try to shut me down, so I use their own psychology against them. I'm like, wait a minute, you believe in intersectionality, do you not? if that's the case, then you're supposed to uplift my voice, not stifle it. Aren't you supposed to uplift black voices? Isn't that what you're supposed to do as a leftist? Now, I don't believe in that. I believe in uplifting any voice that is truthful, that is truth-telling. But you believe in the idea of intersectionality, so you got to play by those rules. Uplift my voice and let me speak to you when it comes to the truth, right? And when it comes to the black liberal, typically it's a lot of the same old, tropes and Coon, Uncle Tom, white man slave, white man's dog, race traitor, self-hater, Sambo, Oreo, you name it. I've been called it, black white supremacist, the blackface of white supremacy like Larry Elder. I mean, I've been called it all. And they come with nothing but emotionalism and conjecture. And I'm met with that often, but that's what the left has to offer, right? They have to offer nothing but emotionalism. And as Ben Shapiro talks about, facts don't care about your feelings, which it really doesn't. But when it comes to these individuals, they come with me but nothing but emotionalism and conjecture. So I present them the facts and I say, look, if you can call me all the names in the book, at the end of the day, that's, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So you can say all that you want. Refute the facts, though. That's what I want you to do. Refute that. Don't come at me because I have nothing to do with it. I'm just a messenger, okay? At the end of the day, you have to refute the facts. And some of them do wake up eventually, but a lot of them, they just, hurl insults. But I look at it as just a seed planted.
Yeah, you have to plant those seeds.
That's it.
And as they get a little bit older and a little bit more experience outside of the indoctrination all day long, every day, hopefully those seeds will begin to take root. Yeah. So you mentioned talking to black leftists. What about white leftists? Sometimes I think they actually are the most racist people.
Woo! They can tend to be very racist, and a lot of times they don't even understand their own racism. Right. I'll talk to them, and they'll say, "I remember talking to this one young lady. Sweet girl, and I know she meant well. Yes, but at the end of the day, she didn't perceive and to understand her own ideology and where her mentality was really at when it came to black people. Because I would say things like, well, it's unfortunate that 13% of the population, the black community is committing over 50% of the murders in America, right? That's a problem. We need to stop committing these crimes. Like it's that easy. And she said that, like it's that easy. Well, yeah, it's that easy. If you don't want to go to jail and you want to be a law-abiding citizen, then you just don't commit the crime, right? Right. And I try to explain this to her, and she's just like, it's not easy for these people. They feel disenfranchised. They feel this. They feel that. I'm like, why do you keep making excuses for people who are just like you and me, right? Black people are people too, right? We're the same. We're human beings, okay? With personal agency, a self-accountability and responsibility, or should I say when it comes to them, some of them, the lack of. Okay, so when it comes to the lack of this type of mentality, if they don't have self-accountability, responsibility, if they don't have personal agency, they're not going to want to do better. And she just couldn't wrap her mind around that. But when I was talking about white people and what it is that white people expect out of white people, oh no, there's no way we would do this. We don't promote that. No, that's terrible. So you're okay with black people acting this way, acting like low-minded individuals, acting like animals, hurting and harming each other and harming other people. You're okay with that, and you're going to make excuses for that. Soft bigotry of low expectations. Yeah. Yes, indeed. But when it comes to fellow white people, you expect them to be on their best behavior. So that just shows the bias that's in your mind, right? The bigotry that's in your mind to say that these poor black people, they can't help but to act like the animals that they are. They can't help but to act like low-minded, base-minded individuals. They can't help it. They can't think. They have no personal agency. They don't know. Are you kidding me? Do you realize how racist that is? That is the epitome of racism, okay? You really do think that you're better than me. You really do think that you have a leg up than me, especially when it comes with the white privilege.
And she's doing it they are doing it because of the color of their skin.
Strictly because of the color of skin.
Right.
You are trying to say that I am disenfranchised simply because of the amount of melanin in my skin.
Right.
That is absolutely asinine. That's an asinine mentality to have. And it's debasing to say that we need affirmative action. We can't do it without affirmative action. So you're basically saying that we need a stepladder, right? You can jump over this obstacle, but we need a stepladder because we are not able to be able to do the very thing that you expect yourself to be able to do. That is absolutely debasing to me. And I look at that, and I look at different white liberals who have this mentality, and I try to explain to them, do you understand your own racism right now?
Yeah.
Do you understand it? Are you able to comprehend that? Obviously not, which is why you're espousing so vehemently what it is that you believe. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
During the Trump presidency, I was on an airplane. I'm on an airplane often. And I sat next to this man, and he started chatting and asked what I do. It was coming from or going to D.C. And I wound up saying that I was part of the Tea Party. I try sometimes not to do that because you never know which way it's going to go on an airplane. And sometimes I just want to be able to work or just not engage with the person next to me. But I did in this particular case. And as soon as he heard that I was with the Tea Party, he went off calling me so many names, telling me I was homophobic, that I was racist, that he had talked to a psychiatrist about people like me and that I hate women. And just going on and on and on. And he had worked for Hillary, I think, or in the Obama administration. So he was in government. And when he finally finished his tirade, I just looked at him and I said, "You are the most prejudicial man I have met in years." And and he just looked at me so shocked, like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You don't even know me. You don't even know me at all. And you just called me all these names. You were prejudiced. You were judging me.
Sure.
How dare you do that?" And he was so taken aback that I called him out on it. I said, "I don't know anything about you except that you are a prejudiced man."
That's it.
Yeah.
And he showcased. And how many times do we encounter people like that? I voted for Trump. You must be a racist. I have the American flag. I'm waving the American flag. Racist.
Yeah, it's not because you love the country. It's because you're racist.
It's asinine.
Yeah.
It's an asinine mentality to have. These people really do believe that they know everything about you just because you love your country. Right? Because you stand on American values and precepts. Right? You believe in the principles of the founding fathers. How is that tantamount to being a right-wing conspiracy, tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, a right-wing extremist? It's unbelievable. Racist, huh? I mean, it's unbelievable. And that's the thing that I look at the situation right now, right? And I see white people being vilified for the color of your skin. And it's unbelievable that you, just based on how you look, based on characteristics that you had no hand in and no part in, that automatically you are demonized as the enemy. You are Alicia or Ashley Shackelford, she gave this presentation, I do believe, in 2019. She's a black liberal leftist, radical leftist, giving this presentation to a bunch of white liberals. And she proceeded to tell them how white people are taught to be demons. And that,
gosh, it's just so bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Based on the color of your skin, just because I am you just lack melanin. That's it.
Yes.
I have a lot of melanin. You have a lot less. Okay, that's it. That's the only difference. Well, that and you're a woman. But at the end of the day, we're still human beings.
Right.
But to her, white people, based on the color of their skin, they're taught to be demons. Demons. And this is the automatic ideology that they have when it comes to white people. And now white people are believing it within themselves, especially a lot of these self-loathing white liberals. They believe it within themselves. They'll put down themselves. They'll put ashes and sackcloth on themselves and say that we are terrible people because of the color of their skin. Never mind the fact that I had nothing to do with slavery. Never mind the fact that I don't hate you based on the color of your skin or think that I'm better than you based on the color of mine. Never mind all of that. Never mind these facts. I am automatically, in the white man talking to you, you both are racist based on the color of skin. And I'm looked upon as the oppressed. based on the color of mine. There's no winning anywhere. It's ridiculous.
It truly is ridiculous. And you've been fighting against CRT as well. And this is this is what happens when you teach CRT.
Absolutely.
But what have you learned about CRT, and why are you alarmed by it?
It's just a absolutely despicable Marxist racist ideology perpetuated to once again divide and conquer the United States of America. Put citizen against citizen, race against race, and that's one of the easiest ways to be able to divide people is by the way they look. Right, so I look like I'm very dark. You're very light skinned. So therefore, we're automatically different. Never mind the fact that we're both human beings.
Right.
Never mind that. But when you look at the tenets and you look at the different people who espouse the CRT narrative, you look at the basis, like I said, with the racial goggles, they just look at the world through racial goggles and they want to see a problem with the United States of America to be able to tear it down from within. You know, people like Antonio Gramsci, one of the pushers of this idea of CRT, I mean, he was all about that. He was all about changing the hegemonic structure of power, right? It's all about hegemony, right? Those who are in power, those who control the cultural power, right? And who controls, according to Antonio Gramsci, it's the straight white Christian male. You got to go after the hegemony, right? The straight white Christian male. So what are they doing? They're doing everything that they can to change every single one of those. It's not about straightness anymore. It's about LGBTQ. It's not about whiteness anymore. It's all about BIPOC. It's not about Christianity anymore. It's all about atheism. It's not about maleness anymore. It's all about feminism. So they're trying to change everything. They're trying to restructure everything. This is their whole goal, and they do it through the robes of society. Who are the robes of society? Those who wear robes, right? The pastors, the preachers, the judges, the politicians, the teachers, right? You go through the robes of society. Rudy Deutschke had a similar ideology, which was the Long March through the institution, right? Which is basically the same thing, but now you're going through the institution, you're going through education, the arts, sports, media, now, in this case, social media, radio, whatever have you, whatever institution out there, you go and you infiltrate that and you subvert it from within. And it's all about subversion. It's all about the art of subversion. It's all about the Trojan horse, right? And, oh boy, I might get in a little trouble with this, but the same thing when it comes to the civil rights movement, right? The civil rights movement was the Trojan horse for a lot of the different movement that's going on right now. When it comes to a BLM movement, that was based off the civil rights movement, the same tactics, right? And when it comes to Eric Mann, he was kind of the handler for, Patriots Coolers and the other Marxists that were in charge, right? And same thing with Stanley Levinston was kind of in charge of Martin Luther King and Bayard Rustin and all these different communist individuals. Same thing when it comes to the homosexual movement or the gay rights movement. That was predicated off the civil rights movement as well. When it comes to the transgender movement, the same playbook is being instituted when it comes to the civil rights movement. You have people like Leah Thomas claiming himself to be this civil rights hero, this individual who's likened to, what was the gentleman's name? I can't remember the gentleman's name. A black baseball player that was famous for breaking barriers. For some reason, I can't remember his name. Lord have mercy. But she likened himself to this individual. It's the same thing. So if you look at CRT, it's absolutely destructive and it's absolutely putting us against each other. And we don't need to do that. We need to come together as one people, as a human race. We're not races. We are the human race. And that's what we need to look at each other as.
Dr. Alveda King often talks about how we are all the human race and that we all bleed the same color. And I always think about that when these arguments start ratcheting up that I'm involved in. I just think about what she says and try to remind people of that. But in schools, in businesses, in corporate America, their intent, the robes of society, as you mentioned, it's everyone that you just mentioned there, plus corporate America.
Oh. it's rife with corporate America.
It is.
DEI training, everything's diversity, equity, inclusion. Diversity, equity, inclusion, everything. You look at equity, that's preferred outcomes for preferred people. Where it once was about equality, that was all the Trojan horse. Now it's about equity, right? It never was about equality initially. It was all about getting towards and moving towards equity. Preferred outcomes for preferred people. And that's all they're trying to push, right? You look at the Black community, and unfortunately, a lot of Black intellectuals, these pseudo-Black intellectuals, all they promote is the idea of equity. Never mind equality. We're well past that. People like Ibram X. Kendi and Angela Davis and the like, Ta-Nehisi Coates, whatever have you. These individuals are well past equality. It's all about equity now.
Right.
We want to be the preferred race. We want to be, never mind how racist that sounds, that we want to be put on this pedestal, which is the very essence of racism, right? And for them, it's a redress of grievances, right? It's all about righting the wrongs of the past. No, it's not. This is racism through and through. This is Marxism through and through. It's all about what the government can do, which is the government can provide diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? That's what the government. And you look at the civil rights movement, unfortunately, it was a big ploy to get the Black community deeply ensconced in the idea of big government. And you look at and you watch how it worked famously. Unfortunately, all the civil rights leaders, including Martin Luther King, advocated strongly for the idea of big government coming in to save the day through civil rights acts, not through upholding the Constitution, but through civil rights acts, right? These external processes that will give them all sorts of rights that'll then propel them into the next phase, which is gay rights and transgenderism, and ultimately, as we keep going, pedophilia. And these companies are walking lockstep with the same ideology. It's absolutely astounding.
It's so troubling as we watch it, and it's hard to escape it. You try not to do business with them, but pretty soon you're like, well, I won't be doing business with very many companies at all if I am not.
Right.
You are very well educated on these issues. How do you do your research, and what is your background besides being red-pilled? When you talked about the red pill experience back in 2017 and 2018, you did a lot of research. What is your background?
It's actually kind of funny because I'm a college dropout. Right. So, I mean, I went to college on a basketball scholarship, partial basketball scholarship, and I forgot that you actually have to go to class. I failed to go to class, didn't make grades, got kicked off the team, lost my scholarship, got kicked out of college. And then I just started waiting tables and started working security and started working more private security, that sort of thing, executive protection, that sort of thing as well. And that gave me a lot of time on my hands to do research, right? And towards the latter portion of my security, I did that for 14 years. Towards the latter portion of that, that's when I started getting red-pilled, and then I'd make that switch. But I had still nothing but time on my hands, so all I would do is research, right? I would go on the internet, and especially now, all I do is read books. I go through different individuals, Thomas Sowell, people like Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, right? Looking at these people especially back in the day, Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass, these people who was all about self-sufficiency and self-reliance, which is what the Black community has gotten so far away from. We got into more government dependence as opposed to self-reliance, which is what they were all about and wanted the Black community to be all about. So I spend a lot of time reading, doing my research, especially here at Turning Point USA. I do a lot of research, a lot of reading, trying to familiarize myself with these different the things that these people espoused, and understanding what it is and parsing it out so that when I go to these college campuses, I'm completely armed to the teeth with quotes, with facts, stats, and data, with the original goal that these civil rights I'll say pre-civil rights activists, which really wanted the best for the Black community, what they really wanted for us and where they wanted us to be as opposed to where we are right now. So I spend a lot of my time reading. I listen to podcasts, doing various research, and it's been very fruitful, I must say.
It is. You're very well versed in it,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
who cares if you had a college degree or not? Because you've got it. You're doing your own. You're creating your own degree for yourself in
Yes,
your own
ma'am.
specialty.
Yes, ma'am.
And sometimes that's a path that people take, and it works. It works the best for them.
Work for Charlie Kirk, so it must work.
Exactly.
It must work.
It
You know what I'm
must.
saying? So-
It must. Well, and right now, if you're sending your kid to school or you're in school and your kids are being taught, mine are in college, if they're being taught like at Harvard that a man can be a woman and a man isn't a man and a woman isn't a, what kind of education are they getting anyway?
It's a pseudo education at this point. Pseudo intellectuals giving you a pseudo education, but in a lot of different places that these college degrees, these pieces of paper, do mean something, right? Especially if you go into the STEM fields, that's going to come to your benefit. So I understand it, but at the same time, you have to be, you need the full armor of God going into a place like that to make sure that you come out with a clear-cut mind and not being diverted into these different ideologies that are very antithetical to the truth and detrimental to the United States of America.
When you realized back in 2017 and 2018 that the Trump people, that you weren't going to hate the people who like Trump anymore. How did that make you feel? What were the emotions that you went through?
I felt foolish. I felt hoodwinked. I felt bamboozled, and I was angry, right? Because the way I look at it, sure, I was wrong about Trump. That sucked, okay? And sure, I wish I wouldn't have, prejudged the man without doing my research. But at the end of the day, I hate being lied to. There's nothing more disrespectful than lying to someone. Because basically you're looking at someone and saying, I am so intelligent that I could feed you a bill of goods and you'll just eat it without any question. That's how dumb you are, and that's how intelligent I am. And I looked at the news media, I was like, wow, you really thought you were smarter than me. And you were. You were able to dupe me. Right. It's time to turn the tables. Same thing when it came to the black community and the prevailing notions within the black community, the monolithic groupthink of the black community. I looked at that and I said, you had me over a barrel. Right? You had me. Hook, line, and sinker. Not anymore. And it's time to educate you guys to be able to, and I'm not trying to come at it from a place of superiority. I don't know everything. I'm still doing my research just like the next person. But at the end of the day, I know that the way things are going, the way that I thought was completely antithetical to the truth. It's not power plus prejudice equals racism, right? That's not the way it works. That's the newfangled idea that the black community holds near and dear to the heart, to be able to say, we don't have the power in America, therefore we can't be racist. But white people have the power in America, therefore they are the racists. They have the prejudice, they have the power, now they're racists. No, anyone can be racist. Anyone. And when it comes to the black community, unfortunately, we are some of the most racist people on the face of this planet, and it's sad. Black people in America, I should say. It's unfortunate because our racism is allowed to fester and go unchecked. It's been able to metastasize like a cancer within the black community. Now we are since we can't be racist and we believe we can't do that, now we can extol the very virtues of racism, and you can't say a thing lest we call you a racist. So when it comes to all these different mentalities and ideologies and coming to the idea that I am now the very thing that I would fight against back in the day, right? I'm waking up. I'm waking up to the notion that I myself am the racist. It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. I always say that when it comes to a liberal being exposed to the truth, it's like a vampire being exposed to the sun. It hurts. It hurts. But it's a cleansing fire if you let it do what it needs to do and cleanse you from the inside out and help you realize that you're on a wrong path that is absolutely destructive. And like I said, it's antithetical to the truth. So when I woke up, I had a V for vendetta when it came to the news media as well as the leftist individuals within the black community, the charlatans and the users and the abusers. One more thing I'll say about that, I tend to look at these leftist charlatans as a modern day drug dealer. right? As the intellectual drug dealer. You know, if I'm a heroin dealer, I want to be able to sell this heroin to as many people as possible for maximum profits. Same way, when it comes to these leftist individuals, they have a new drug, and that new drug is called systemic racism, and the effects are called victimology, right? And they want as many people ensconced in this idea of systemic racism so they can go out and go to their, these different, and give these different speeches and have all these speaking fees, $40,000 for people like Angela Davis, who rails on capitalism, but then turns around and requests a $40,000 speaking fee for her trouble.
Right.
Okay? And it's absolutely astounding. It's absolutely unbelievable. And it's incumbent on people like me, who was a part of the problem, to create a solution and to go out there and right the wrongs that I've devastatedly, created, when it comes to the just the bad situations, the negative things that I said, the terrible way I treated people just because they weren't the same color as me. It's incumbent on me to do what I need to do to get this country back on track, be able to right my wrongs, and stand on truth.
And we do have to get the country back.
Yes, we do.
What did your family and your friends think? Because I would imagine this was quite a change.
Yes. It was actually kind of interesting because, most of my brothers were okay with it. One's he's more liberally minded, and he said, "You know what? At the end of the day, I love you. You are my brother. We may disagree, but I love you, and I'll support you in everything that you do."
That's good.
And I took that. I was like, "Yes, right." Now my friends, not so much, right? People I've known for years, people who knew me very well, broke bread together, hung out together, all that sort of thing. Now I'm just, I'm this, duped individual, who got ensconced in this cult-like thing called Trump supporter, right? Now I'm in the cult. Right. And now I don't know what I'm talking about. Now I'm unintelligent. Now I'm misinformed. Now I'm this. Now I'm that. Now I'm that. It's unbelievable. You know who I am. We just had a conversation not too long ago. And now all of a sudden I'm the worst thing since the worst thing. It's unbelievable the way they switch on you. Right. And you want to know who your real friends are. Oh, goodness gracious. Just say even if you're a leftist and you want to know who your real friends are, say you support Donald Trump now. And just watch the amount of people who will come against you, and those who still will associate with you. You realize that they're there because of who you are as an individual. Not because of what your politics are, but because of who you are as an individual. And I had a lot of people just, turn their back on me, but I also gained a lot of other friends, true friends who love me for who I am and appreciate me for standing for truth.
That is very good. You moved here to Arizona in 2021.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
You were in California during all of the lockdowns.
Oh, yeah.
That California and New York were some of the worst. I went to New York in 2021, and I flew in. I couldn't go to any restaurant, which means you really couldn't use the restroom. I was meeting with a few people in their homes, so I did that, and then got to the airport again, where I was allowed to eat again and go to the bathroom. But in New York City, because of the vaccine passports, I couldn't go into. I couldn't go. I sat in Central Park working on my computer while I was waiting in between meetings. New York, California, these states that did that, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary, the compliance that we saw.
Oh, goodness.
It was such tyranny.
The amount of people that fell for it.
Yeah.
The amount of people that went along with it. And I truly believe that it was just a test to see if the American people are going to fall in line when we say so. And the American people, a good majority of them did. Yeah. They fell right in line. They did exactly what they were told to do. They put on their mask, and there are people who are still wearing their mask alone in their car all by themselves, which makes absolutely no sense.
I don't understand it. I want to go up to him and just say, "Is there anything I can do to help you?" But I know there's not a thing in the world I can tell him. It's going to have to come from someone on TV or somewhere.
It's arbitrary. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's funny because, I had many a conversation with many a person And I would ask them, like, have you been wearing this mask before the pandemic? Oh, no? Huh. So you're just now wearing this mask incessantly.
Right.
Just now. Because the government told you to. Because the government would never lie to you. Right? It's unbelievable the amount of people who say they don't trust the government, but trusted everything that came out of Dr. Fauci's mouth.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And now, even to this day, it's a comfort. It's become such a part of them, a piece of them. It's cognitive dissonance when you try to explain to them that the mask doesn't work. And they're like, no, it does. I need to wear the mask. You don't understand. It's cognitive dissonance. You don't want to understand. You don't want to know. You are comfortable with where you're at. And that's a very scary place for an American to be.
It is.
As an American, now, if you're someone from another country, I can understand. But as an American, when you understand your roots as an American, as a revolutionary, as a person who stood against tyranny, as a person who stood up for your rights, as a person who understood, like, look, I want to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of daggone happiness. It's scary to see an American comply and just say, whatever you want, daddy government, I am for it. It's scary. Yeah. But here we are, 2023, and we're still falling for the same mess.
And they're going to try to do it and use the green agenda and climate next, I'm sure. And I think we have a lot of Americans who have proven they'll just go right along, and there'll be people like us who have to stand up for it and live our life boldly, which means walking outside our house and breathing fresh air.
Darn.
Just to prove that it can be done.
Right? I mean, who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? And I try to explain to these people, like, I'm doing this. I'm fighting for you. You're fighting against me. I'm fighting for you for your own sake, and you don't even realize it. Right? You are so ensconced in this mentality and this ideology because you feel, quote unquote, safe.
Well, and being safe and worrying about it's all about them. They're wrapped up in their own world. They don't want to get sick. They don't want to, whatever it is. They're truly not thinking about everyone else around them. Not at all.
They're not thinking about their fellow man. That's what it is to be American. I really do believe this with every fiber of my being. You have to care about your fellow man, right?
Yes.
That's just a Christian mentality to have. Is I need to care about you, right? It's not just about me. It's not all about me. You shouldn't be a narcissistic person to the point that the sun rises and sets on you because you are the center of everything rotates and revolves around you. That's not the way to live. That's a very selfish way to live. And if you look at the hedonism that's going on in this world, the licentiousness and the lasciviousness that's going on with this world, especially when it comes to all this pride stuff, it's all about me. How much pleasure I can be able to gratify my flesh with. What is it I can do for me? How can I step over this person and do this person wrong for my own benefit? It's absolutely antithetical to how we're supposed to live as human beings. We're supposed to care about one another, right? We're supposed to treat each other with respect. My mom told me kindness costs $0 and 0 cents. But we can't even do something as simple as be kind to one another. And I didn't say nice. Be kind. So being kind and loving one another, there is a such thing as tough love. Yeah. That means I got to tell you when you're doing wrong. That means I got to try to course correct you and let you know and inform you when you're doing something that's terrible, not only for you, but for society. Right. It's not just about you. It's frustrating to see the amount of narcissism in these people. Roger Kimball, he's a conservative commentator. He says that no one destroys just himself alone. That whoever destroys himself destroys to some extent others as well. And we see this happening with the transgenderism. People think, I don't care what you do, just do it away from me. Well, if they do it away from you around somebody else and they bend their mind and say, and now this person's saying, well, I don't see anything wrong with that. Now they're doing it to kids and showcasing this to kids, drag queen story hour and things of this nature. What do you think that's going to do? That's going to warp their mind. No one just destroys himself alone. They destroy other people as well. And we need to be more involved with other people and stop stop thinking all about me so we can get this country, get this world back on track. I really do believe that, but we are so narcissistic in this American culture that we can't tell, our behind from our head, and it's absolutely disgusting.
It is disgusting. But there are people who are making a difference.
Yes.
And you and I both encounter them all day long in the work that we do.
Yes.
And there are a lot of amazing activists out there who understand what's happening in the country and are trying to make a difference.
Yes.
And those people are the ones who give me hope and make it possible for me to get up every morning and go, okay, I can do this again, because I'm trying to help find ways for them to be more active and to be more productive with their activism. And so that gives me hope.
Yes.
I try not to look at big pharma because that gives me no hope.
That's the opposite of hope. That's despair.
Yeah, it really does. And in the government, of course, I'm really very cynical at heart about the government at this point. But that's the government. It's not the country. The country is separate from the government's part of the country. But what makes this country great and what's going to save this country is not how the government functions, but understanding those founding principles and taking action on them and not stepping away from them. That's
what we need to get back to. We need to get back to those founding principles from our founding fathers. John Adams says that our Constitution is made only for a moral and religious people, and it is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Right? George Washington, he said, of all the dispensations and habits that contributed to our political success, morality and religion are indispensable supports. These people, our founding fathers, always talked about morality and religion. Right. And the dominant religion, especially at that time, was Christianity. We need to get back to our Christian ideals and Christian Judeo-Christian values. We need to get back to morality and being able to preach that to people. And when we can do that, when we can embrace morality once more, we can do something fundamentally great with this country. Right. When we are on a moral footing, we do wonderful things, not only within our own country, but throughout this nation, throughout this world, And it's really sad to see that we're not doing that anymore. We're not adhering to morality. Ever since the 60s and 70s, the sexual revolution, the cultural revolution, everything's been going downhill, right? And it's unbelievable. It's sad to see, but I am encouraged. I am encouraged when I go to these college campuses and I talk to these kids. And that's one thing I love about Turning Point USA is we're all about our colleges knowing how leftist they are, but we have these cells. I don't even want to call them sleeper cells because we're very active on these college campuses. Turning Point USA has some of the best people that are standing up for freedom, that are standing up for patriotism, that are standing up for what we know to be right. And they're getting spit on, they're getting hit, they're getting their tables overturned, they're getting accosted and assaulted, and they're still standing strong. Seeing these young people is so encouraging to me. It's unbelievable. I love it.
It is so encouraging. And they are in the belly of the beast where they are standing up for it. They've got it from their teachers. They've got it from their classmates. They've got it from every which way. And yet they set up their tables, they have their signs, and they're like, I'm here. Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it. Because I know I'm standing on truth. I know I'm standing on what is right.
Yes.
And whatever you say, it doesn't matter because you can't change the truth. And those kids are amazing. Yes. And Charlie, empowering them and equipping them, I appreciate that so much about him. And I appreciate that about you, that you're going around and talking to them and are part of that organization.
Thank you. It's incumbent on me, and it's mandatory at this point in time. If you love your country, you have to be active and proactive about saving your country. We can't sit back and just whine and complain, oh, this is happening, oh, isn't it terrible, that's happening. What are you going to do about it? Because if you're not doing anything about it, you can't sit there and very well complain. Anyone can complain, but we have to be proactive in getting this country back on track, and we can't do that from the comfort of our couches. We have to go and be in the public public eye. And you better believe there are people who I've gone up against who have raised up ideas that I didn't know. So I go home and research, right? And that's what it's all about. You have to put yourself out there. This is a culture war. We don't call it a culture, fun time. We call it a picnic. It's not a culture picnic.
Right.
It's a culture war.
Right.
And what happens in war? People get banged up. People get bruised. People get broken. But at the end of the day, it's worth it, and it's incumbent on us to keep going to war, going back to battle, to get our country back on track so we can win this culture back. And we can't do that, like I said, from the comfort of our homes and our couches. I mean, we can go on podcasts, and I love that. Yeah. That's one thing we can absolutely do. And that's another thing I try to explain to people. If you have a cell phone, you are a journalist.
That's right.
If you have a cell phone and recording capabilities, you have a social media platform, which everyone seems to have at this point in time, you are a journalist. So you need to go on your soapbox, stand on your soapbox, and spread the truth. You need to inform people. You need to do the research yourself. You need to become well acquainted with the facts so you can be able to combat these individuals when they produce these lies and this narrative of falsehood. You can be able to combat them with the truth, and that's incumbent on all of us to do if we claim to call ourselves Americans and if we claim to call ourselves patriots.
Absolutely. If people want to know more about you, how can they find out more about you? Where can they go?
You can go to my, I'm most active on my Instagram, so that's Stephen Davis 1776. The real Stephen Davis, which is spelled with a PH.
That's
yes,
right.
Indeed. Stephen Davis 1776, Stephen with the PH. And you can find me also on Twitter, Stephen D 1776, as well as YouTube, Stephen Davis 1776 as well.
Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today, letting me introduce you to my audience, who they may have already seen you on Instagram. I have, and I love the work that you do there, and I appreciate everything you're doing with Turning Point USA. Thanks for spending time with me today.
Thank you for having me. It is nothing short of a pleasure to be able to talk to you. Thank you very much.
The Jenny Beth Show is hosted by Jenny Beth Martin, produced by Kevin Mooneyhan, and directed by Luke Livingston. The Jenny Beth Show is a production of Tea Party Patriots Action. For more information, visit teapartypatriots.org.
If you like this episode, let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment or a 5-star review. And if you want to be the first to know every time we drop a new episode, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications on whichever platform you're listening to. If you do these simple things, it will help the podcast grow, and I appreciate it very much.